Okay, we're going to be doing the butt joint today, and that's where two pieces of wood are just butted together to form a joint, one of the simplest joints that you have. You can see it here on this corner shelf, is used here to reinforce the corners. There's screws put through, but this is a butt joint where the pieces are just butted together. So to do that, we're going to be learning how to use a drill, cordless drill, and an impact driver, which are back here on the shelf, right here. A cordless drill is generally a little longer, and you install the bit in the end by spinning this sleeve. It's called the chuck, and that opens and closes these jaws here, and you can insert the bit into there, and as you spin the chuck, it locks the bit in place. So this is the pre-drill bit that we're going to be using. Pre-drilling is where you remove some of the material of the wood with a drill so that there's room for the screw to go in, so the pressure of the screw doesn't split the wood. This is the primary bit that pre-drills, and right here we have a combination bit here where we have the diameter increases right here of the drill bit, and you can see that when that gets drilled in, it makes a little round recess called a countersink in the wood where the head of the screw will sit into, and that'll make sense as we get going here. We've also got a impact driver. This is generally used for installing the screws. It's a little faster. It does not have a chuck that allows you to put in different size bits. It only receives the 1/4 inch hex shaped bits, and you just pop them in. To release it, you pull on this sleeve and it pops it out. Some of the older ones you had to pull the sleeve out and then insert the bit, but most of the new ones you just push it in and it clicks in place, and you pull it and it pops it out. Quite simple. All right, you could use this to do both of your operations, the impact to do the pre-drilling, but in this case we're going to use two, just so we have the driver bit, which today we're going to be using these red ones, which is a number 2 Robertson. It's a square drive bit called a Robertson bit. It's number 2 when they're red. All right? That's what we're going to be using to make our butt joints. So we want to install this like this, and we want to have 2 screws going through here and here. So to line that up properly, we might use the vise because it'd be hard to do this on the hand, but we can try it. You may find it easier to use the vise though. So let's just do that. We're going to put one in the vise. We're going to install our pre-drill bit and countersink in. And we want to install this so that it's flush. So you make it flush and you hold it down. Line it up on the sides here and here. And you're going to be coming in about 3/4 of an inch, and you want to aim for halfway across this board so that your screw goes in the middle of this board. If you're too close to the edge, the screw will probably split this one out and you won't have a good bite. You have to come in a little ways, not too close to the middle. We want 2 of them. So we're going to line this up. I'm going to drill it. You have to come in and out a few times. Oops, that's shifty. So we're going to pre-drill that and send it in a little ways. You can see the little pocket that's made. That's where the head of the screw is going to sit in there, and you can plug that up later too. All right, so that's there. So we're going to get some screws. Now the screws are up here as well. Whoa. And we're going to use, what do we have here? These are 1.5 inches. So it's a little bit short maybe for this. Ideally, you would have it sticking a little bit more into the joining member, maybe another inch. You might want 2-inch screws for joining this material. We'll use the 1.5 inches. Okay, let's go here again, and I'm going to use the impact driver, put the screw on the bit, and make sure it's in forwards. Hang on, what do you mean by forwards? Well, there's a button right here that changes the direction that the bit spins. You can see there's an arrow here, and it points towards the front of the drill. That means that's in forwards. That's pointing to the back of the drill. That means it's in reverse. So putting in the screw, taking out the screw. Okay, so we've got this installed, and we were talking about the directions forward and reverse on the drill and impact. It's the same thing on the impact as the drill. One thing you want to be aware of is that when you are pre-drilling this hole, this is pretty common to see happen when you're learning, in that you don't realize the pressures that you're applying with your hand and how to adjust properly to avoid breaking the bit. This is pretty skinny bit. This is 7/64, this particular one. It's almost 1/8 of an inch, but it's fairly weak, and if you are applying pressure on here to drill, you have to put a little bit of pressure in, down, and you are pushing, and most of the pressure is back here on this part of your hand. What's happening is you're actually flexing the bit and causing it to bend this way a little bit because the pressure is down here. Ideally, you want pressure more directly on top of the drill bit. To do that, you can kind of twist your hand forwards a little bit, and that will counter the pressure down, and that's what I usually do. Otherwise, you can use another hand and put pressure right here on top of the drill. Like that. Oh, you need a ride?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll notice that I pre-drilled one hole first and put the screw in, and then I did the other one. It's important to put in one screw before drilling all the holes, especially sometimes you have more than 2 screws, because you want to put the first one in, and that will hold the piece from shifting around. If I go and drill all the holes, sometimes that piece will wander a little bit as you're drilling, and then your holes don't line up. So always pin one screw in before you drill the other holes. I've got this pre-drilled, and I'm ready to put my next one in. There we go. Now, there are 2 scenarios here. One is set in fairly far. It's about 1/8 or more down. And this one is fairly close to the surface, and that's going to be a problem when I go to plug that with a plug later. So I'm going to take it out and drill it a little deeper. I want to have this wide part right here in a little bit more, like maybe 1/8 of an inch in. There, better. Now when I screw this in, there'll be room for my plugs. There we go. That's pretty deep. Deeper than this one, and that's fine. So I've got to cut some plugs now, and that'll be another video. But this is a butt joint right here, okay? Good job if you did that. Okay, just a note about those butt joints. These ones were screwed together. That's not always the case. Sometimes they can just be glued. Other times they're nailed together. So it doesn't have to be screwed. It can be nailed. It's very common, and we'll be learning about using hand nails and gun nails later on.